Okay, so let's go over a solution to this exercise. As always, you can take a look at the code right away. If you want to follow along, start from scratch with me, feel free to do so. So the very first thing we have to do is make a new file. I'll call it pokemon.html. Create our boilerplate, and let's fill in the title to match, which should be Pokemon chart. So we know this is going to have an h1 up top, and that h1 is just first gen Pokemon chart. And we know there's going to be a table, and that table is going to have a T head and a T body, which, just to refresh your memory, does not impact anything about how the table looks or behaves. It's purely about making our markup as semantic as possible, making it so that a search engine or a web crawler knows that this is the header right up here, and this is the body. So just a good idea, best practice. So next, we're going to add in our very top, the 4 headings. So 4 THs, we have image, name, type, and evolves into. So let's go ahead and just check how this looks. All right, there's our table so far. The first thing we'll probably want to do is just to make it match what we had, we'll give it a border. Remember though, that we don't really want to be doing this later on in the class. So once we talk about CSS, we'll do all of the styling through CSS. This is just purely to make things visual for now. It's not a bad idea to know about it, but it is a bad idea really to do this professionally. Okay, so let's go take some of this data. I'm going to copy it down just to the bottom here and comment it all out. And then all I'm going to do is create my first row. So we'll start with Bulbasaur. So inside of T body, we need a TR. Inside of that TR, we need 4 TDs. The name is going to correspond to our second TH, so I'm going to put it in the second TD there. The image goes first, so I'm going to copy the image URL, and then I'm going to create an image tag and set the source equal to that URL inside of that TD. If we wanted to, we might space it out a little bit like this. So we have, this doesn't impact anything, it's just purely aesthetic in our code so that we can see the relationships that this image is nested inside the TD. Then we've got name. Next we have type, which is grass and poison. And then lastly, we have another more complex one where we have an A tag. Remember, it needs to look like this, A tag that says Ivysaur. So that A tag, let's copy the link that it needs to go to. And then let's copy the name for that content. And then I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this. Oops, got rid of the comments. Well, get rid of that just so that we clean this up a bit. Let's refresh. And there's our first entry. Double check that it works. Click on Ivysaur. Great. Okay, so we're basically going to repeat the exact same process. And for the sake of time, I'm just going to copy this. So this whole row. And remember, you could do Control-C and paste it with Control-V or Command-C and Command-V. But also Sublime has this nice shortcut where you can select and hit Command-Shift-D. Command-Shift-D twice if we wanted to, and that will duplicate it twice. So now we've doubled that automatically, and we just need to go through and make some of the changes. So the first one, name is Charmander. The image URL, and we need Charmeleon. It's a fire type, and the URL here. Paste it in. Let's check on that. So we should have 2 Bulbasaurs because we copy and pasted. Charmeleon, the link is correct. Great. So now we just need to finish up with Squirtle. the image, water. Let's go with the URL first of the link. Change the name, Wartortle, and strength is water. All right, decent amount of copy and pasting there. There we go, make sure it all works. Great. Okay, so that's all we needed to do. Let's make sure they match. Looks good. Great. One small change I might make while I'm here, just a good lesson on this. I'll add a comment here just to clarify for you guys. So this first one is Bulbasaur. Next, this is everything about Charmander. And lastly, this is everything that corresponds to Squirtle. One change though, as I mentioned, is these images are kind of massive. We could definitely shrink them down, and that would shrink the size of our table down. And this is something you would do with CSS. It is style information. So ideally we do it with CSS away from our HTML. We want to keep them separate. HTML is structure, CSS is style. But for this exercise, what we can do is add a width attribute to an image. Give it a number like 50. And you'll see that as I refresh, this changes to 50 pixels, much smaller. We could change it to 500 and get a gigantic image. We'll keep it at 50. And another reason I want to show you this is rather than copying and pasting this 3 times, which works just fine, a better way of doing that in Sublime is to actually create 3 cursors. So I'll show you what I mean. We click, hold Command, click again, keep holding Command, and click again. And then we can start typing, and I have 3 cursors at once. Width equals 50. So this is pretty cool. It's a really useful one if you need to change multiple things at once. In the exact same way, you just Command click all over the place, and it spawns a bunch of cursors. And as you can see, we have a nice, more readable and sensibly sized table. All right.